The fabric tore like a scream. Isabella Castellano's perfectly manicured hands destroying the black uniform piece by piece while the maid trembled on the marble floor. But what Isabella didn't see was the silver chain that fell from Elena's neck. A chain that carried a dog tag with a name that would make every soldier in the Castellano family drop to their knees. A name buried in blood and brotherhood 15 years ago. Because the girl on that floor wasn't running from danger. She was bait. And in exactly 28 minutes, when 3 rival families stormed through those doors thinking they'd found Dominic Castellano's weakness, they discover why you never, ever touch what belongs to a ghost. Subscribe to Mafia Romance Hub right now because this story will shatter everything you think you know about loyalty. Hit that notification bell. What happens in the next 30 minutes will leave you wrecked. I'm not exaggerating. Elena Moore's uniform split down the back. But here's what's wrong with this picture. Here's what doesn't add up. Elena wasn't crying. Her shoulders shook like she was sobbing, but her eyes, if you looked close, were calculating. Scanning the room, counting the exits, cataloging every witness. You think I don't see it? Isabella's voice was pure venom. The way he looks at you, the way you just happen to be wherever he is. Mrs. Castellano, please. Elena's voice trembled perfectly. Academy Award performance. Liar. Another rip. The sleeve this time. And that's when it happened. A silver chain fell from Elena's collar. A dog tag spinning in the light before it hit the marble with a metallic clink. Isabella bent to pick it up, and her face went white. The name engraved, SGT, David Moore, KIA. But underneath, scratched in hasty letters like a dying man's last words. Protectium, blood oi, DC. Isabella's hands started shaking. Because DC didn't stand for Washington. It stood for Dominic Castellano. And 3 of Isabella's friends were filming everything. Designer phones out, getting every angle. Posting to private Instagram stories that fed directly to encrypted channels monitored by every rival family in New York. The Marchettis, the Russos, the De Lucas, all of them had been waiting 15 years to find Dominic Castellano's weakness. And Isabella had just gift-wrapped it for them. Elena's voice echoed from 6 months ago in Dominic's office. You want me to do what? Dominic's response. I need them to think you're vulnerable. To think you're my weakness. This is insane. They'll try to kill me. Only if they're stupid enough to try. That's when we end this. All of it. 15 years of hunting ends the moment they come for you. Elena met Isabella's eyes, and for just a split second, the mask dropped. Isabella saw something that made her blood freeze. Elena wasn't afraid. Elena was ready. Then footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Isabella. Dominic Castellano stood in the archway, and his face was a masterpiece of controlled fury. But if you knew him, really knew him, you'd see something else underneath. Satisfaction. The trap had finally been set. Step away from her. His voice was deadly quiet. Isabella stumbled backward. The dog tag clutched in her shaking hand. Dominic, I didn't know. I swear I didn't. Didn't know what? His eyes were ice. That you just broadcast my most protected asset to every enemy I have? That your friends' little Instagram stories are being screenshotted by intelligence analysts in 3 crime families right now? That you just started a war? Isabella's legs nearly gave out. Marco, Vincent, and Tommy materialized from the shadows, but they weren't protecting Elena. They were scanning windows, checking sightlines, preparing for an assault. Because it was coming. Everyone in that room knew it. How long? Dominic asked Marco, not taking his eyes off Elena. Marchettis will move first. 90 minutes, maybe less. They've been sitting on a warehouse team in Queens waiting for an opening. Russos, 2 hours. They'll want confirmation first. De Lucas. They'll wait to see who survives. Then hit the winner. Dominic finally looked at his wife. Congratulations, Isabella. You just accelerated a timetable I've spent 15 years preparing. I was going to let them come for her next month on MY terms. But you forced my hand. Let them come for her? Isabella's voice was barely a whisper. You wanted this? Dominic knelt next to Elena and carefully helped her stand. His jacket wrapped around her shoulders. But his touch wasn't protective. It was tactical, positioning her. "Elena," he said quietly, "are you ready?" She nodded once. Born ready. And that's when Isabella understood. This girl wasn't a victim. She was a weapon. 6 months earlier, Elena Moore sat across from Dominic Castellano in his office, her military posture unmistakable. "Not a maid. Never a maid. Your father saved my life," Dominic said. "Now I need you to help me end the people who killed him. The Marchettis." "Yes." Elena's jaw clenched. "I was 8 years old when my father died. The army told my mother it was a robbery. Random violence. But she never believed it. She spent 15 years trying to find the truth, and it killed her. Cancer from the stress, the grief, the not knowing. It wasn't random," Dominic said quietly. "The Marchettis sent those shooters because I was making moves on their territory. Your father wasn't supposed to be there. He was just a soldier home on leave, having dinner with his stupid best friend who thought he was invincible. The bullets were meant for me." "I know." Elena's voice was steel. "Because I've spent the last 5 years investigating. Marine Corps intelligence, then private sector. And every thread led back to you. To that restaurant. To that night." She leaned forward. "So here's my question, Mr. Castellano. Are you going to let me have my revenge? Or are you going to get in my way?" Dominic studied her, saw her father's eyes, her father's courage, but also something David Moore never had, a capacity for calculated violence. "I have a better idea," he said. "We use you as bait. Draw out every family that's ever moved against me. And we end them all in one night. Your father gets justice. I get peace. And you get to be the weapon that does it." "Why would they come for me?" "Because I've spent 15 years building a legend. Whispers that somewhere, I'm protecting David Moore's daughter. That she's my weakness, my guilt, my one soft spot. Every intelligence network has fragments of the story, but no one's been able to find you because you've been ghost. But if we bring you into the open, make you visible, they'll come, like sharks to blood." Elena smiled. It was her father's smile, but colder. "What's the plan?" Back in the present, Isabella felt like she was drowning in Dominic's office. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the file. "She's not really a maid." "Obviously not," Dominic said, pouring 3 fingers of whiskey with steady hands. "Elena Moore, Captain, Marine Corps Intelligence. Retired 6 months ago with a chest full of medals and a vendetta that burns hotter than hellfire." Isabella's voice came out as a whisper. "The dog tag was her father's. Sergeant David Moore, my best friend. The man who died taking bullets meant for me." Dominic's voice hardened like steel. "The Marchettis killed him thinking they were sending me a message. Instead, they created something worse. They created her." He pulled out a file and dropped it on the desk with a heavy thud. Isabella opened it with shaking hands, and what she saw made her stomach turn. Inside, surveillance photos of Elena in full combat gear, leading operations in dusty Middle Eastern compounds. Commendations for Valor Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. After-action reports detailing missions that read like something from a Jason Bourne movie. Kill counts that made Isabella's perfectly manicured hands tremble. This wasn't a maid. This was a ghost. A weapon wrapped in human skin. One photo showed Elena in tactical gear, face painted in camouflage, absolutely still while insurgents walked past her hiding position. Another showed her rappelling from a helicopter. Another showed her receiving a medal from a general. But the one that made Isabella's blood run cold was the last one. Elena, age 8, standing at her father's military funeral, tiny hand pressed to the flag-draped coffin, eyes completely dry but filled with a rage that didn't belong on a child's face. "Oh my God," Isabella breathed. "She's been planning this since she was a child. She's been hunting the Marchettis for 5 years," Dominic continued, his voice almost admiring. "Getting close, burning their operations, gathering evidence. Afghanistan taught her patience. Iraq taught her violence. Syria taught her how to become anyone, blend anywhere, wait for the perfect moment to strike. But she couldn't get to the head of the family. Tony Marchetti is too careful, too protected, too paranoid. Learned that from his father. So she came to me 6 months ago with a proposal. Use her as bait. Exactly. Let them think she's my weakness. Let them come. Isabella's mind was reeling, trying to piece together the enormousness of what she'd stumbled into. And the maid job was the performance of a lifetime. We needed her visible but not threatening. Needed her in my house so every spy on my payroll, and yes, Isabella, I know about them all, would report back to their real bosses. Needed the illusion to be perfect. A young woman, vulnerable, someone I clearly cared about but seemed defenseless. He looked at Isabella with something almost like pity. You were never the target of this operation, Isabella, but you played your part beautifully, better than any actress I could have hired. That scene downstairs? That dog tag falling? Your friends filming everything? That was the final piece we needed. Now they'll come. You used me? Isabella whispered, feeling violated and manipulated. I used everyone. That's what you do when you're ending a war that's lasted 15 years. Dominic finished his whiskey. The question now is, are you smart enough to stay out of the way when they arrive? 15 years ago, young Dominic sat across from David Moore at Giovanni's restaurant, arguing about life choices, about honor, about whether a man could be both powerful and good. You're gonna have to choose eventually, David said, cutting into his steak. The life you're living, it's gonna demand pieces of your soul. Take them one by one until there's nothing left. Maybe some of us don't have souls to lose, young Dominic joked, though his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. That's what they all say. My father said the same thing before Vietnam ate him alive. David leaned forward. You think you're different, Dom? You think power won't corrupt you like it does everyone else? I think power is the only thing that matters in this world. Everything else is just pretty words. Then you're already lost. David shook his head sadly. What about love? Family? Doing right by people who can't protect themselves. That's what gets you killed, Davy. Caring too much. No, brother. Not caring enough is what kills your soul long before your body goes. David smiled that gap-toothed smile. But I haven't given up on you yet. There's still good in there. I can see it. You always were an optimist. Someone has to be, especially with a stubborn fool like you as a best friend. David raised his glass. To stubborn fools who still have time to choose better. Dominic clinked glasses, not knowing these would be the last words of wisdom he'd ever hear from the only man who believed in him. The door burst open. 3 Marchetti soldiers. 2 guns. 1 message. Dominic Castellano. Compliments of Tony Marchetti. Time slowed. Dominic's hand went for his weapon tucked in his waistband. But David was already moving, his military training kicking in instantly. The soldier's body crashed into Dominic with the force of a linebacker, knocking him behind the heavy wooden booth. Dominic's head cracked against the floor, vision blurring. Pop, pop, pop. 3 bullets, all meant for Dominic's chest, all caught by David's back as he shielded his friend. The Marchettis fled, their message delivered, and Dominic crawled out from under his dying best friend, his hands already covered in warm blood. David! David! No, 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 stay with me. Somebody call 911. Other diners were screaming, running, chaos erupting around them. But all Dominic could see was his best friend's face going pale, blood pooling beneath them both. David's hands found Dominic's collar with weakening strength, pulled him close. Blood bubbled from his lips with each word. Dom, listen, not much time. Don't talk like that. Ambulance is coming, you're gonna be fine. You hear me? You're gonna be fine. Elena, David gasped, his voice barely a whisper now. My baby girl, 8 years old. She's at home, with her mom. I'll call them. I'll make sure they know. No, listen to me. David's grip tightened with desperate, dying strength. Promise me, protect her. Don't let this world, this life, touch her. Make sure she stays good, pure. Everything I'm not, everything you could still be. Tears streamed down young Dominic's face. I promise. I swear on my life I'll keep her safe. No. David coughed. More blood. His eyes were fading but still fierce. Not good enough. This life, it breaks promises. Breaks men. I need more. Blood oath. Your blood and mine. Ancient way. Unbreakable. With shaking hands, Dominic pulled his knife from his boot, cut across his palm without hesitation. He pressed his bleeding hand to David's blood-soaked hand, their blood mixing, becoming one. I swear it. Blood oath. On my life, on my soul, on everything I am or will ever be. I'll protect Elena. I'll keep her safe. I'll watch over her like she's my own. I'll make sure she has every opportunity, every chance at happiness. I'll keep her away from this darkness. I swear it, David. I swear it. David's face softened, a small smile appearing despite the pain. You're a good man, Dom. Under all that armor, you're still good. Don't forget that. Stay with me, brother. Please, I can't do this without you. You're the only one who sees. But David Moore's eyes went distant, staring at something beyond this world. His last breath came out as a whisper, barely audible. Tell her, I'm sorry, I wasn't there. Tell her Daddy loved her more than anything. His hand went slack in Dominic's grip. David? David. No, come back. You don't get to leave. David. But his best friend was gone. The only person who'd ever believed Dominic Castellano could be something more than a monster had died in his place. Dominic held his best friend's body, rocking back and forth, covered in blood, making sounds he didn't know a human could make. Grief so deep it felt like drowning. The ambulance came, then the police. They had to pry David's body from Dominic's arms. He fought them, not wanting to let go, not wanting to accept that the best man he'd ever known was gone because of him. And Dominic Castellano, covered in his best friend's blood, made a promise he'd spend 15 years keeping. A blood oath that would define the rest of his life. But here's the twist no one saw coming. Elena had been standing in the restaurant's kitchen doorway the whole time, 8 years old, wearing her favorite yellow dress with daisies on it, visiting her father on his day off because it was Daddy-Daughter Day, watching through the crack in the door as the only hero she'd ever known died saving a mobster she didn't understand. She heard every word, every promise, every oath. She saw the blood mixing, saw her father's last breath, saw the man named Dominic hold her daddy like he was something precious, something worth grieving over. And in that moment, little Elena Moore made her own promise. Someday she would make the bad men pay. Someday she would be strong enough. Someday, she would become the weapon her father's sacrifice deserved. The restaurant owner found her 20 minutes later, still frozen in that doorway, eyes dry but seeing everything with a clarity that would haunt her forever. They tried to shield her from the body, but she'd already seen what mattered. Her father was a hero, and heroes don't die in vain. She spent the next 15 years becoming someone who could make that true. High school ROTC, military academy, Marine Corps intelligence, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Black Ops missions that would never see official records. She became efficient, deadly, focused, and every single step was building toward one goal: finding the men who killed her father and making them understand what it means to take a hero from the world. 5 years of investigation led her back to New York, back to the Marchettis, back to Dominic Castellano, the man who'd held her father as he died, the man who'd made a blood oath over her life. When she walked into his office 6 months ago, he didn't recognize the 8-year-old girl in the combat-hardened soldier standing before him, but she recognized him. Those same eyes that had cried over her father's body. "Mr. Castellano," she'd said, "my name is Captain Elena Moore, and I believe you knew my father." 90 minutes after the incident, Marco burst into the office. "They're here. Marchettis, 8 cars, professional crew." Dominic stood, buttoning his cuffs calmly. "Where's Elena?" "Library. Ready." "Good." He looked at Isabella. "You're about to see what happens when people make the mistake of underestimating what I love." "You love her." Isabella's voice cracked. "Like a daughter, like the child I'll never have, like the last piece of the only good man I ever knew." He headed for the door. "Stay here. Whatever you hear, don't come out." The mansion had been transformed. Every maid, every driver, every cook had vanished, replaced by Dominic's most elite soldiers. The household staff was never real. It was always an army in disguise. In the library, Elena stood by the window, watching 8 black SUVs roll up the drive. She wasn't wearing a uniform anymore. Tactical gear, vest, weapons. She looked like her father in that army photo, ready for war. Dominic entered. "You don't have to do this. I can end them without." "Yes, I do." Elena's voice was steady. "He was my father. This is my right. David would want you safe. David would want justice." She turned, and her eyes were fire. "Besides, you taught me something, Mr. Castellano. Sometimes the best way to protect someone is to make them dangerous enough that no one dares touch them." Dominic smiled. "You really are his daughter." The front door exploded inward. 8 Marchetti soldiers stormed in expecting a soft target. A vulnerable girl. Easy leverage against the great Dominic Castellano. Instead, they walked into a kill box designed by a woman who'd spent 5 years planning their deaths. The first man through the door, a thick-necked enforcer named Carlo who'd bragged about his kills in 3 states, never saw it coming. 2 rounds to the chest from Elena's position on the second-floor landing. Center mass. Textbook. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The second soldier spun toward the sound, weapon rising. But Elena had already moved, rolling behind a marble column. His bullets chipped stone where she'd been a heartbeat ago. She returned fire around the column's edge. 1 shot, clean through his throat. He went down gurgling. The mansion erupted in controlled chaos. This wasn't a defense. It was an execution chamber, and every angle had been calculated weeks ago. Dominic's men emerged from concealed positions, behind curtains, inside doorways, from the top of the stairs. They'd been waiting, weapons trained, for this exact moment. 3 soldiers went down in the crossfire before they could even process what was happening. But these weren't amateurs. The remaining Marchetti soldiers were professionals, men who'd survived turf wars and gang violence. They took cover behind overturned furniture, returning fire with disciplined bursts. Elena moved like water, flowing from position to position. Every movement was economy and precision. She'd learned in Helmand Province that the fighter who moves fastest wins. Drop, roll, fire. Reload behind cover. Check corners. Never stay still. A soldier popped up from behind a couch, weapon tracking her. She was faster. Double tap to the head. He slumped. Another tried to flank through the dining room entrance. Marco caught him with a burst that painted the doorframe red. The gunfire was deafening in the enclosed space. The crystal chandelier shattered, raining glass like deadly snow. Marble columns were pocked with bullet holes. Paintings worth millions hung in shredded tatters. But the most terrifying thing wasn't the violence. It was Elena's face, completely calm. No fear, no hesitation, no doubt. This was what she'd been trained for, what she'd been born for. Tony Marchetti himself came through the door last, thinking his 8-man team had secured the area. He was confident, smiling even, until he saw the bodies of his soldiers littering the floor like discarded toys. His face went from confident to confused to terrified in the span of 3 seconds. He saw Elena on the landing, weapon trained perfectly on his center mass, and his smile died completely. Elena's voice cut through the gunfire. "You killed my father." Tony's smile faltered. "What?" "Sergeant David Moore. 15 years ago. Giovanni's restaurant. He was having dinner with his best friend when you sent 3 of your men to deliver a message." Recognition dawned on Tony's face, then fear. "You're the daughter. I'm the weapon he created." Elena descended the stairs, weapon trained perfectly. "You took my father, took my childhood, took my mother's will to live. And you've spent 15 years thinking you got away with it. Around them, the gunfire stopped. Tony's men were down. Dominic's soldiers had taken the room. It was just Tony, Elena, and Dominic now. "I'll pay you," Tony gasped. "Whatever you want. Money, territory, anything. I want you to understand something," Elena said quietly. "When you killed my father, you thought you were killing a nobody. Just a soldier. Just collateral damage in your war with Dominic. But that nobody was the only man who ever made Dominic Castellano believe in something bigger than power." She stepped closer. "And his daughter? She spent 15 years in the Marines learning exactly how to make men like you pay. So no, Mr. Marchetti, I don't want your money. I don't want your territory. What do you want?" Elena looked at Dominic. He nodded once. "I want my father's death to mean something. I want his sacrifice to end this cycle. I want every family in New York to know that Dominic Castellano's promise to David Moore isn't a weakness." She pressed the gun to Tony's forehead. "It's the most dangerous thing in this city." The gunshot echoed through the mansion. 2 hours later, Isabella sat in shocked silence as Dominic explained the rest. The Russos and DeLucas got the message. Tony Marchetti's body was delivered to their doorsteps with a note. "The debt is paid. The war is over. Touch what's mine and join him." And they'll listen? They're not stupid. Elena took out 8 professional soldiers without a scratch. That sends a message louder than any threat I could make. "What happens to her now?" Dominic smiled. "Medical school. Columbia. Starts in the fall. She's going to save lives. Like her father did." After what she just did? Because of what she just did. She honored her father. Got justice for her family. Now she gets to live the life David Moore wanted for her. Doctor, healer, hero. You really did protect her. I kept my promise. Just not the way David expected. Elena appeared in the doorway, changed back into civilian clothes. Young again, the warrior mask gone. "It's done," Dominic asked. "It's done." She pulled out her father's dog tag, the one she'd let fall so deliberately. "I'm giving this back to you. The blood oath is fulfilled." "No," Dominic said gently. "It's never fulfilled. I'll watch over you for the rest of my life. Not because I have to, because I want to, because you're family." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "He'd be proud of you, you know, my father, for keeping your word. He'd be prouder of you, for being exactly what he hoped you'd become." She left, and Dominic watched her go, the last connection to the best man he'd ever known. He stood at the window long after her car disappeared down the tree-lined drive. Marco approached quietly, knowing better than to interrupt his boss's rare moments of vulnerability. "She's gonna be something special, boss," Marco said softly. "She already is." Dominic's voice was thick with emotion he rarely let anyone see. Her father would be so proud. Medical school. Saving lives instead of taking them. That's the whole point, Marco. That's what the blood oath was really about. Not just keeping her alive, but keeping her soul alive. Keeping her good in a world that wants to make everyone like us. You kept your promise. I kept my promise. Dominic touched the window glass where her car had been. But she's the one who did the hard part. She could have become bitter, vengeful, consumed by darkness. Instead, she chose to honor her father by becoming what he always wanted her to be. A healer, a hero, someone who makes the world better, not worse. The Russos and DeLucas are falling in line. Words spreading about what happened here. They're calling her La Fantasma, the ghost, the girl who came back from the dead to end a war. Dominic smiled. Good. Let them remember. Let every family in New York know that some debts transcend business. Some promises are sacred. And some people... He looked at the photograph of David Moore on his desk. Some people are worth dying for. What about Mrs. Castellano? Isabella learned her lesson. She understands now. Loyalty isn't about jealousy or possession. It's about honoring the people who made us who we are. He turned from the window. David Moore saved my life, Marco. He gave me everything I have. The least I could do was make sure his daughter got everything she deserved. 1 week later, Isabella found Elena packing for college. The girl looked up, uncertain, defensive walls still partially raised. "I owe you an apology," Isabella said. "A real one, not the one Dominic forced out of me." "For what?" "For seeing you as a threat instead of what you really were. A daughter, a soldier, someone worthy of the protection Dominic gave you." Elena smiled softly. "You couldn't have known. I should have trusted my husband. Should have trusted that his reasons were good. We're all just doing what we have to do to survive in this world." Elena zipped her bag. "Your husband kept a promise to a dead man for 15 years. That's rare. You should hold on to him." Isabella laughed. "After everything, you're giving me marriage advice? My father used to say the best relationships are built on promises kept, not words spoken." Elena slung her bag over her shoulder, then paused, something clearly on her mind. "You know what the hardest part was? All those years, I thought Mr. Castellano was just honoring a debt, a transaction, blood for blood, obligation for obligation. But watching him these past 6 months, seeing how he looks at that photograph when he thinks no one's watching, how he still visits my father's grave every year on the anniversary." Her voice caught. "He didn't protect me out of duty, Mrs. Castellano. He did it out of love. Real love. The kind my father had for him. The kind that says, 'Your life matters more than mine.' That's rare in this world. That's everything." She moved toward the door, then turned back one last time. Tell him thank you for everything, for keeping me safe when I didn't know I needed protecting, for making me dangerous enough that I could protect myself, for letting me have my revenge while making sure it didn't consume me, for honoring my father in the only way that really mattered, by making sure his daughter became exactly what he died believing I could be." "What's that?" Isabella asked softly. "A hero." Elena smiled through tears. "He died saving someone he believed in, and that someone spent 15 years making sure I could save people too. That's not a debt. That's not an obligation. That's love. Pure, sacrificial, unconditional love." "Tell him yourself," Isabella said, gesturing to the window. Elena looked down and saw Dominic standing by a black car in the circular driveway, hands in his pockets, looking up at her window. Not the Mafia boss, not the crime lord, just a man saying goodbye to someone he loved. She grabbed her bags and ran. Isabella watched from the window as Elena burst through the front doors and dropped her bags. Dominic opened his arms, and Elena crashed into them, finally letting herself cry the tears she'd held back for 15 years. "Thank you," Elena sobbed into his chest. "Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for honoring him. Thank you for making sure I didn't become what this world wanted me to be." Dominic held her tight, one hand cradling the back of her head like she was 8 years old again. "Your father saved my life, Elena, but you saved my soul. You reminded me that some things are worth being better for, that promises matter, that honor matters, that love matters." "I'll make him proud," Elena whispered. "I swear it. I'll save more lives than I took. I'll be the doctor he always wanted me to be." "You already have made him proud. Every single day you chose to be good instead of giving in to darkness. Every day you chose healing over hurting. That's the real victory, Elena. Not the revenge, not the justice, but staying human in a world that wanted to make you a monster." They stood there for a long moment, the powerful crime lord and the soldier-turned-student, bound by blood and promises and love that transcended biology. Finally, Elena pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I have to go. If I stay any longer, I'll never leave." "Then go. Go be extraordinary. Go save the world. Go be everything David Moore knew you would be." Dominic pressed something into her hand. A key. Apartment in Manhattan near Columbia. Already furnished. Already paid for. No arguments. "Dominic, no arguments," he repeated firmly. "You focus on your studies, on becoming the doctor who saves lives. Let me handle the rest. That's what family does." "Family?" Elena repeated, trying the word on. Fit. I like that. She got in the car, and as it pulled away, she looked back one last time. Dominic stood in the driveway, hand raised in farewell, the morning sun casting long shadows behind him. The girl who was untouchable, not because she was weak, but because she was David Moore's daughter. And that meant she was loved by the most dangerous man in New York. Comment Blood OHH if this story absolutely destroyed you. Subscribe to Mafia Romance Hub for stories that make you feel everything. What promise would you keep forever? Tell us below. Hit that like button if you believe loyalty is the most powerful force in the world. New story drops next week, you won't want to miss it. We'll see you then.